Now that we have many elements of our skill tree done, we have skills that we can unlock, we are upgrading our HP, and you can see we're also taking away some resource, XP, souls, whatever you want to call it, every time we unlock that. There's two more things that we really need to take a look at for the functionality here. And that is number one, only allowing every node to be unlocked once, and number two, hooking these up together to actually make them function as a tree, where unlocking one node then makes nodes under it available. So that's what we're going to be doing here right now. Let's start by opening up the skill node widget itself, because these are going to need to have somewhat more code inside of it now. I'm going to set these up in a way where they have two bools, whether or not they are opened, which is going to mean just are they available to be unlocked, and whether or not they are already unlocked. So we'll make a bool called isOpen. You can make that exposed if you want to, because some of them you want to have opened as a default. Most of them won't be opened by default, of course. And then we also have isUnlocked. Now, you can name these whatever you want. If other names make more sense to you, of course, this is the way that makes sense to me, but unlocked might not. Now, in the previous video, we set up the unlocking of the actual skills, the checking of it, and then the granting of it, inside this skill info widget. That's the thing that we saw on the right-hand side in our actual menu, this thing. And we're going to move that back into the actual skill node for a couple of different reasons. With this unlock skill to player, apply unlock cost, those things are actually going to move back into the skill node itself. There, what we'll do is we'll make a custom event, and we'll call that something like unlock skill. I already have a unlock skill event somewhere apparently. Oh, I do. That's good. We're going to just work on this one, I guess. So at the moment, we're not using this anymore. We will come back to using this as we go along. So instead of just unlocking the skill to player, this will also now just use the unlocker assets to apply the unlock cost to the player as well. And the reason that we're moving this code back into this node now is because unlocking a skill is going to mean that this node is going to have some extra jobs as well. Mainly that being, of course, setting isUnlocked to being true now, because we want to mark this as now being unlocked so that we can no longer re-unlock it again. But we also want to make it open up all of the next nodes down the skill tree. So for that, we're going to first and foremost need a variable that's going to hold all of those nodes that are downstream from it. So what we do is we call that something like next nodes, and that's going to be of type WBP skill node. So it's going to be of the same type that this thing itself is, because it's going to be holding references to all the other nodes it is related to. And instead of just being one can be fine if it's just entirely like a linear path. We're going to make this an array though. And the reason that we do that is because one node might unlock 2 or 3 or 5 or a variable number of different nodes down the line. Now we'll come back to this unlock skill function in a moment, because I'm going to make a new function or event here, and we'll call that open children, just for organizational purposes. Effectively, this only ever happens with an unlock skill, but it's just nice to not have a super long event, just break up your code a little bit. We get our next nodes array here, and we for each loop over that. And then for all of those, all we really need to do is just call open node, which is going to be the next custom event that we make here. So we call this open node. And open node itself also doesn't do that much. All that it does, of course, is set our isOpen state. Effectively, we're always going to call this to set this to true, so you can just do this if you want to. If you, for whatever reason, want to be able to unopen a node by calling this event, which might at some point become relevant, it's good to just have that as a parameter instead. And then we want to make something visually different about this node so that it is visually obvious that it is now a unlockable state. It's opened up for us to be able to click on. So once again, we make a new custom event. We're going to go back up the chain in a moment. And we'll call this something like set node state. Set node state visual. try to make your function and event names descriptive, if at all possible. For me, all that this really needs to do is it needs to get our icon and set it to a tint. So we can brush tint this, set brush tint color, and we can use a select node for this. And we're just going to check, hey, is this thing opened? If it is not opened, we're going to be making a slate color. And the slate color that's going to be used here is just going to be like 60% gray or something like that. Something dark, and just making sure that it's visually obvious that this is inactive at the moment. And if it is true, we just want to set the tint to being white. And then after that, we check if we are unlocked or not. You can do this by just converting this to branch by right-clicking on it, or alternatively, you can just hook it up to a branch if you prefer that. And this will just set the color for our button itself. So our button, we set the background color on that. And I'm just going to set the background color for the button itself to be like blue if it has been unlocked. So this will do the styling for both if it is unlockable and if it is unlocked. The image icon itself will show whether or not it is unlockable. And then the background color for the button will show whether or not we have previously unlocked it. So that's everything to do with making new custom events that are going to be called in other custom events and so on and so forth. So we can go back up the chain now. After we open a node, we can then try to set the node visual state. And in open children, we just go over all of the things that are in the next nodes array, and we just open node. And in this case, we just set them open true. Again, pretty much always we're going to be setting open to true. I can't see that many situations where you want to close a node after it has been opened. But it is, again, just good to have the capability of doing that. Don't hard code things too much. And then we finally get back to our unlock skill event. So after we've unlocked this skill, we just open the children of this thing, and that pretty much gets us everything we really need to have the skill tree progression. Now, we want to go back one step real quick here as well into event construct, because on event construct, we also want to set the node's visual state, so that when they get added to the screen, they get checked, hey, am I unlockable or not? And based on that, they will update their looks immediately. We don't need event tick, so let's delete that. We just set node state visual on event construct. So now if we open up our node thing, we see that all the icons are grayed out. So that's a good start. But we, of course, want one of the icons to not start grayed out. So let's actually rearrange these into a way that kind of makes sense. And then I will also copy a couple extra ones over here. So what we're going to do is this one is going to unlock these two, and this one is going to unlock these two. I want to make one very clear warning here, though. And that is if I can overlay some footage of the skill tree in my own game, the thing that I developed this system for in the first place. The thing that I have there is it's more of a skill web than a skill tree, and that will quickly start being an issue. And the reason that that starts being an issue is because if you make these references go around in a loop, the widget editor specifically doesn't like that. On runtime, it's fine. It's just within the widget editor itself, whenever you click on one of these nodes, what it does is it tries to load in every single node that it references. And it does that in a recursive way. So if I click on this, it tries to load in these two. And then if these two are trying to be loaded in, those have references and it tries to load in these two as well. That's actually not that much of a problem, believe it or not. Even if you have like 100, 200 nodes in a tree, widget editor kind of like powers through that. It's not that big of a deal because they're all going to be loaded during runtime anyway, right? So they're not actually that big. The problem comes in where if I add in a couple extra ones like this, if this one then references this one, and this one references this one, and this one references back to this one, I've now created a loop of references, and the widget editor is not really built to deal with that, it turns out. The moment you start doing this, especially if your tree is relatively big and it's got multiple of these loops inside of it, clicking on any given widget within that loop will make your editor stall for anywhere between like 30 to 90 seconds every time you click on one thing inside of that loop. So do be mindful of the fact that you shouldn't build these to loop around. If you do want to build a skill tree that can loop around in itself in some ways, you might need to build a different tool to actually build out the skill tree, instead of building it out within the actual widget editor that Unreal gives you. If you just have a fairly linear tree that doesn't have any of this looping, that's not an issue. I just want to make sure to warn you, looping these things back in on themselves is gonna potentially be an issue. So anyway, let's set up these next nodes. So we have this array here in all of our nodes. And in this case, I can just say this node is going to connect to these two. And it does that based on name. So do make sure that they have been given unique new names. If you just drag in a skill tree node like this, it's going to usually have a default name, and it might not show up in this drop-down menu here. In this case, it actually does. So maybe that has been fixed in a recent version of Unreal. But I've had issues in the past where these drop-down menus don't show certain widgets because they haven't been given a unique name yet. Speaking of unique names, it's good to just name these so that you can actually see which one is which. So let's call this add 5 HP tier 1. And this will be our starting node. This will be add 10 HP tier 2. And then this will be add 10 HP tier 3. And this one will be add 5 HP tier 3. I'm just calling these tier 1, 2, 3 because this will be on layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. This is just temporary names, of course. And then just to have this be thorough, I want to change this to actually being the right data asset as well. So this one will connect up to both of the tier 2 ones. So this one will be tier 2 and, well, actually, that's tier 1. I misnamed them. This is tier 2. Starting would be tier 1. My bad there. So this connects up to both of those. This connects up to nothing at the moment. And this one will connect up to both of the tier 3 nodes. And then all we need to do is we need to make sure that this first one is by default set to being open so that we can actually interact with it. So with that, we can open this up and we can see this one is unlockable. And whenever I unlock this, it actually does make these other ones unlockable. There's one thing that I skipped over though, that the skill info is still running somewhat of the wrong code. So let me just put that up right here. And there on the button clicked, we're still doing this skill node display, skill node unlock, and then we're doing all the unlocking code through here, right? So what we want to do instead is this unlock skill to player and apply unlock cost. We're going to get rid of that within the skill info. And then the skill node display is going to just run the unlock skill event that it has inside of itself. And now you will see that if we unlock this, it actually unlocks the things below it. And then when we unlock this, it unlocks the things below it. We still have the issue where the background color doesn't properly change whenever we unlock the skill. And that seems to simply be because I forgot to add a simple little node. So back in the skill node widget, which is this one, if we go back to unlock skill, at the very end of all of this, after we've set is unlocked true, after we've opened the children, we also want to just set the node visuals for this node itself. And that'll immediately show you that it now does properly update when we click on these. Now, we can still double, triple, quadruple unlock these, which is obviously something we don't want to be able to do. But at this point, that's actually super easy to figure out because we've got the 2 extra variables we need for that already set up. So if you just go back into the skill info, you might recall that what we do here is whenever we update the skill info, we are setting the button to being enabled or disabled based on whether or not we can unlock the skill. all we need to do is, instead of just checking, hey, can we unlock the skill, we also need to check, hey, is this node already opened up and is this node already unlocked? So we pull off of this can unlock and then we put that into an AND boolean and just give that 3 inputs. Only if all 3 of these inputs are true is this output going to be true. So the other 2 inputs are going to be from our skill node to display. We want to check get is open. We only want to be able to click on the unlock button if the node has been opened up. And we also want to get is unlocked. But this is the wrong value, right? This is the wrong way around. This will be true if we already have unlocked it. It will be false if we haven't yet unlocked it. So we want the inverse of this, which we can just do by getting a not boolean. This just inverts the value from true to false or from false to true. So now what this is doing is it's checking, hey, can I unlock the skill? And is the skill node open? And is the skill not yet unlocked? Only if all 3 are true will this be disabled. If any of these 3 checks ends up being false, the entire AND node will output a false. And that's literally everything there is to making skills only unlockable once. So now we will see that it immediately disables this button for me after I've clicked on it once. If I click off of it and back onto it, I can't re-unlock this and everything is only unlockable once. So we effectively now have the entire skill tree functioning from a code perspective. But immediately there's a couple of different issues. Number one, we need to be able to save this state so that when we close this widget and reopen it, or even better, when we stop playing the game and reload our save file, this all gets remembered. And it's super not clear which things connect up to what. We need to draw lines between all the connected nodes. And we need to be able to pan and zoom in and out these widgets, because you can already see that some of the widgets are getting cut off. And as you build a big skill tree, it's not all going to fit on screen at once. So there's a couple more videos coming, but from a coding perspective, we've pretty much done the hard part at this point. Next time, let's focus on drawing those lines. And a very big thank you to all my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help support the channel or get any of the project files in any of my tutorials, there's a link down below to the Patreon page to support me, or alternatively as a YouTube member. My Cave student tier supporters, Oiku, Earl, Monseville Urno, and my Cave digger tier supporters, Mauricio Farias.